So now we will focus on the EIA methods. So basically there are 8 EIA methods, that is ad hoc method, checklist method, matrix method, networks method, overlays method. Another method is called environmental index using factor analysis. This is also one method, followed by the cost benefit analysis and predictive or simulation methods. Okay, so these are the 8 methods we have, and in your syllabus this part is not there, this cost benefit analysis and this predictive or simulation method. This one is not there in your syllabus. Okay, so we will try to learn about the rest 6 methods. Okay, so if we see here, if you go to the next slide, you can see that the next slide explains about the first method, that is the ad hoc method. Okay, so basically ad hoc method, what it does, it indicates some broad areas of possible impacts by listing composite environmental parameters. For example, the flora and fauna, it will list all those parameters which are likely to be affected due to any kind of development in that area. Okay, and this ad hoc method, it involves assembling a team of specialists. Okay, so a team of specialists are to be involved to do what? What should be their job? Their job is to identify the impacts in their area of expertise. Okay, so depending upon the site, the areas of expertise are to be or the people are to be gathered. Okay. Next one, in this method, each environmental area such as the air and water is taken separately, and the nature of the impacts such as short term or long term or reversible or irreversible impacts are considered. Okay, so these are basically the salient features of the ad hoc method. So what you have to go only in this EIA, you have to only learn about the basics of those methods. We are not going to deep inside it. Okay, we only need to know what is that method. When you will be going to the field, you will come to know about in detail one of this ad hoc method. Okay, so this slide explains about all about the basics about the ad hoc method that is being used by the environmentalist to do the impact analysis for certain developmental activity. Next we have the second method is the checklist method. So as the name suggests, this method will be involving checklist. So what do you mean by checklist? So let's say you are going, suppose for example you are going for a picnic. Okay, so in the picnic you will make a checklist. For the picnic you will make a checklist that okay, or for the trekking you will make a checklist. Okay, so if you are going for a trekking, we need to have we need to have the shoes, we need to have tents. Okay, okay, so like that, this method is also focuses on the checklist. So the checklist method, it ranges from listing of the environmental factors in a highly structured approach involving the importance of weightings for factors and the application of scaling techniques for the impacts of each alternative on each factor. And the checklists are based on 4 categories. Okay, and they represent one of the basic methodologies that are used in EIA. And what are those four broad categories? The first one is simple checklist, second one is descriptive checklist, third one is scaling checklist, and the fourth one is scaling weighting checklist. Okay, now what are the characteristics of the following checklist? We need to see here. So the simple checklist are a list of parameters, and they don't have any guidelines provided on how to interpret and measure the environmental parameter. So only the details will be given, only the broad area. Okay, only the broad area will be given, and that needs to be checked. Okay, like the environmental parameters of that certain area needs to be checked where the developmental activity is going to happen, or it is supposed to happen, or it is happening there. Okay, next one is the descriptive one. So as the name suggests, along with the environmental parameters, some guidelines will be there. Okay, so this includes an identification of environmental parameter and what, and the guidelines on how the parameter data are to be measured. Okay, next one is the scaling checklist. So in scaling checklist, as it suggests, it is supposed to give some genuine information which is based on scaling or parameter values. Okay, so these are similar to descriptive checklist with additional information basis to subjective scaling or parameter values. So here the numbers will be there. Okay, so here only the simple checklist, only we have the broader area, followed by descriptive checklist. In descriptive checklist we have the different guidelines, like how much the parameter is to be, let's say the air quality index or anything. Okay, that needs to be shown in number wise, and the, let's say the lower minimum or higher and the higher one, that needs to be maintained. Okay, next one is the scaling weighting checklist. So these are the most advanced type of checklist methods, okay, which are capable of quantifying the impacts. Okay, so this is all about the checklist method which you have in your syllabus. Okay, this is the second method which we covered for the environmental impact assessment. Next one is the matrix method. Okay, so as the name suggests, this method involves some matrices. Okay, and here the interaction between the various activities and parameters are considered, and they provide a cause-effective relationship, a cause-effective relationship between the project activities and their impacts in environmentally important components. And these also provide a graphical tool for doing what? For displaying the impacts to their audience in a manner that can be easily comprehended. Okay, so these are some basic things about the matrix method. Okay, and apart from that, the next method we have is the networks method. Okay, so the networks are capable of doing what? They are capable of identifying direct and indirect impacts. Okay, so if you remember, we have already done or we have already went through this one. Okay, a case study. Okay, where the direct and indirect impact of typical construction project on a mangrove forest was discussed. Okay, So this method, that is the network method, it is capable of identifying the direct and indirect impacts. It also is capable for higher order effects and their interactions between the impacts, and hence they are able to identify and incorporate mitigation and management measures into the planning stages of a project. And these methods, there's a third type of methods, that is the network methods. They are suitable for doing what? For expressing the ecological impacts of lesser utility, considering social, human, and aesthetic aspects. This is because the weightings and the ratings of impacts are not features of the network analysis. Okay, so as we go on one by one, you can see the methods are having more capabilities to identify and measure the impact of any kind of developmental activity on the environment. Okay, next one is the overlay method. Okay, so the overlay method, it involves, so as it says, suggests, the name suggests, it involves a preparation of a set of transparent maps. Okay, so like a set of transparent maps will be made in which the spatial distribution of environmental characteristics like extent of dense forest area and all that are being mentioned. Okay, so what it does, it is like, let's say we are taking some transparent sheets. Okay, in those transparent sheets we will be, okay, let's say this is for the let us say we are going to do the environmental impact analysis for certain area, which for any kind of industry. Okay, so in that industry nearby, human habitat is there, flora and fauna is there, some water bodies are also there. Okay, so let's say one slide, or sorry, one this transparent sheet will, let's say we are going to give the area of the industry. Okay, in the second one we will give, okay, let's say the this is the, this is the, for example, this is the developmental project which is going to happen, and so if we overlap this one, this image will come to this place, and here we can show that, okay, in this area suppose human habitats are there. Okay, okay, or any two, let's say in this area human habitat is there, then if we put this one on this one, and here let's say we have shown, okay, here we have some forest cover, for example, this forest cover is there, so let's put this one above there. Next, here we have, let's say along this line we have a water body. Okay, so this basically gives like this, how we are going to make this one is, we will scale the transparent sheet, and based on that, based on the topographic and the spatial distribution of the environmental characteristics as dense forest and all, this, let's say this is a river. Okay, so if we overlap everything, okay, so how this is going to look like, how this is going to look like. Let's say this is the transparent sheet. Okay, this black one is the project. Now this one will come here. Okay, and so let's represent it with green. So this one is the human habitat, then this one is the forest cover. So that forest cover, let us say we are representing it with blue one. So this is for the forest cover, and let's say yellow one is for the river. So the river, it is flowing like this. Okay, so if you overlap the four transparent sheets, the final one may look like this one. Okay, and what it says, the information on wide range of variables will be collected for the standard geographical units within the study area, which will be recorded on series of maps, typically for each variable. Okay, so for each variable, one map needs to be created. So this is all. This is what all about the overlay method, which you have to learn. Next one is the cost benefit analysis. Okay, so as the name suggests, there should be something like whatever we are paying or whatever we are investing, based on that we should get the benefit, right? So what this cost benefit analysis gives, the cost benefit analysis provides the nature of expense and the benefit accruable from a project in monetary terms. Okay, so this is basically a method which uh, becomes a plus point for the industry. Okay, because this one it tells about, or this one it gives us the details about the, like, what benefit we are getting by investing some amount for that in that development of project, and it enables easy understanding, and it also helps, aids means AIDS here means it helps in decision making. Okay, it also helps in decision making, and broadly the cost benefit analysis is divided into three types or three categories. Now what are those three categories? The first one is the use of economics for the cost benefit analysis. It is as an integral part of the project selection. It also uses the economics in the assessment of activities that are suggested by the EIA, followed by the economic assessment of the environmental impact of the project is carried out with the help of cost benefit analysis. Okay, so these are some of the basic characteristics of the cost benefit analysis method that is there in your syllabus. Okay, next part is the environmental medium quality index method. Okay, so this is somewhat more elaborated one than the other methods which we have discussed till now. Okay, so this involves a certain number of steps that are to be carried out in order to find out the environmental medium quality of that particular area which is having a developmental activity going on at the particular place. So the steps include the factor identification. So what are the factors that are affecting the environmental parameters of that particular developmental activity in that region, thereby assignment of importance weights, followed by the establishment of scaling sections or other methods for factor evaluation. The fourth step is a termination and implementation of appropriate aggregation approach in order to aggregate the data, followed by the application of field verification. Okay, so whether the really those factors and parameters which we discussed are being affected by the developmental activity or not, that needs to be checked at the site level or at the site. Okay, and it also consists of some delineating key factors that can be used as the indicators for environmental quality, susceptibility to pollution, and pollution potential of the source type. So these are certain factors which this method can be used. Okay, so this method can be used in order to show the environmental quality. Okay, environmental quality means you can talk about the air quality, the water quality, the soil quality near that area in which the developmental activity is there. Followed by the susceptibility, how much area is susceptible to get polluted or to get hampered by that developmental activity, followed by what are the potential sources of or types of pollution that this method will be able to tell about to you. Okay, so this is all about the different methods that are there in your syllabus. Okay.